Meteor.
All right. Hello, everyone. Welcome to another episode of Svelte Radio. I'm here with a previous guest of ours. That is, I've never met him before. Well, that's not true. I met him yesterday, actually. Hello, Scott.
Hey.
Nice to finally meet you.
Likewise.
Yeah. Cool. So we're both here for a conference in New York, and the stars aligned, and we can do we've managed to figure out a time slot for doing an interview. So Svelte 5 is out. What are your thoughts?
Oh,
Actually,
man.
wait.
Yeah.
Sorry. Who are you before we start?
Oh, yeah. I'm Scott Tolinski. These days, I'm the co-host of the Syntax podcast, syntax.fm. And we're releasing a lot on YouTube these days. So I think that the line that we're hitting now is that Syntax isn't a podcast anymore. Syntax has a podcast, and that we're doing more than just a podcast. And the podcast is just one of the things. We hired CJ Reynolds to come on, and he's been doing a lot of great content on our YouTube too. So we're doing a lot of video and stuff. So I have to get used to saying not just the Syntax podcast. I'm
right.
of Syntax. Yeah.
Right.
And so I'm here in New York right now. I been doing a lot of interviews. I got to interview Rich yesterday in a really tall tower that overlooked New York. That was pretty incredible.
Yeah. You showed me some pictures yesterday.
Yeah. It looked like a fake backdrop.
Right.
It was incredible. Yeah.
I wish I could go up there at some point, but
yeah, it was wild. It looked like, like one of those things where they project or put like a sheet, like a news channel to make it look like you're high up. But we were actually there. It was a joy to get to chat with Rich for a while, and that's going to be on, I think, Get Nation's YouTube channel. And today I was emceeing React Summit.
Right. In a Svelte t-shirt.
Oh, I did. Sadly, I did not wear my Svelte t-shirt today. I wore it all day yesterday. And then we did a family feud game for the Primeagen's Twitch channel. And I was on a team with Kent C. Dodds, Tanner Lindsley, and Wes Boss. And before I got there, they named our team the Reactleys. And so I decided to wear my Svelte t-shirt, and I had to move my name tag so that way the Svelte logo wouldn't be covered. I had to not claim React. But yes, today I'm seeing React Summit, which is funny, but I've had a great time. Awesome conference, yeah. Yeah,
I saw some pictures of your team, I think, and like the signs were like comically large as well.
They're comically large, and they were so funny. They were like falling over in different directions, and nobody could get them on. And the whole thing was very funny because you're expected to make jokes and stuff on the fly, and I'm not. I can be funny if I'm thinking about it, but like if somebody shoves a microphone in my face, and just like make a joke, I'm like,
that's hard.
So a large part of the comedy of my performance there was just the fact that I could not say anything. It's just, but it was fun. It was cool.
So what kind of, where will people be able to catch that?
Yeah, I think it's on the Primeagen's Twitch channel right now.
Oh,
I believe that's how Twitch works, but I'm not 100% positive. Maybe you put it on YouTube too.
Right.
But yeah, it was a wild event. Yes, certainly.
All right, cool.
And we won. So
that's good. That's the most important part. All right, so you probably caught Rich's talk yesterday, like the North Star talk that he did. What do you think about Svelte 5 now that you've used it for a bit?
I didn't get to check Rich's talk because I was interviewing at that time. I had to do a number of interviews. So yeah, I had to miss like a lot of talks I wanted to see because of that. So I'll have to watch it. But yeah, as far as Svelte 5 goes, oh man, I've been using it for so long at this point,
feels like it's been out for years, probably.
It feels like it's been out for a long time. And I was pretty much any side project I was doing, or even my own website, I would do in Svelte 5, even though it's like, do not use this. And, it's like low stakes
Not
stuff.
Production ready. Stop.
But I managed to hold off on even attempting the Syntax site until the migration tool was released. Because that site is big enough where you would have to touch a lot of components. And I knew the migration assistant would be good. So it's like, I'm going to wait and I'm going to hold off, even though some of the state around our audio player and stuff is a little complex. And it's a little like, it's the type of state that anytime I was touching it, I was like, I wish this was the newer stuff, because I feel like I had a much better handle on keeping things organized.
Yes.
Without the way that we were doing with like custom stuff. Yeah.
Yeah, I feel similarly. We waited. So I'm doing some client work. I used the migration tool for like a Svelte 4 project that we're moving to Svelte 5, and it was easy peasy. Yeah. Just a couple of things to update.
Yeah, I think I had to touch like 15 files or something,
wow.
which is like minimal considering how big the site is. Yeah. So it was a very smooth migration, but after the last migration assistant, I knew it would be. It was, yeah.
Yeah, the bar is set very high now, right?
It's amazing.
It's for like all of the migrations lately. It's been pretty good.
Yeah,
like very smooth.
Yeah, so I'm liking it. There are some times where I feel like I don't have a handle on why my state is not updating, or like there's some times where I'm like, all right, does it make sense to use an effect here? Right. Does it make sense to even use state here at all? There are some times where I'm still not 100% confident in some of the choices that I'm making, but that's the same thing with anything new. And yeah, it's definitely, in my mind, it feels more organized, even if there are like new things you have to do.
Yeah, the reactive statement thing could get super confusing, right?
Totally.
But the good thing about Svelte 4 was that everything was reactive, right?
Yes.
You didn't have to worry about it.
Right.
So now you have to kind of think a bit about it. I saw recently now on I think it was GitHub that Dominic Ganaway made a PR for a new rune called like inspect.trace, which kind of lets you see the you put it inside of an effect, I think, and then you can see like the actual dependencies and how they update. So I think that's going to be really useful.
Yeah, what's so funny is that in the entire time that we've had Svelte, there was like the debug. What was it before?
Yeah,
it was like
act debug or something.
Yeah,
I never really used it.
I didn't really use it either, but nobody else is really doing kind of like custom console log stuff. And the inspector, and at first I was like, I wish this was just a console log. But then I was thinking about it, I'm like, there's so much more powerful. There's so much more it can do. And I really sincerely appreciate it that it says init or update, because you're never guessing about how the value is set or if it's updating. And I've been doing so much stuff with like local data, and where the data is being loaded from here, and then it's like either being picked up by the server or what. And I was hitting situations where I had to like refresh that cache, and something was updating here and not there. And I'm just like, all right, I throw a couple of inspects on where the state's being used. And it made it really trivial to find out, all right, it's not ever updating in this component. And I'm confirming that more than just visually or whatever. And therefore, that really makes it easier to get into what's going on.
Yeah, the stuff that I build, I so rarely use like effect and stuff. Derived maybe a bit, but it's because it's like mostly non-interactive stuff. I do use it for some things, but generally not a lot.
Yeah, you can get by with derived by to do a lot.
Yeah,
and for me, I'm like trying to train, because I'm working on some Svelte bindings for a local first library 0, and I'm looking at the solid code, the React bindings, and I'm like, how do I translate this into Svelte? Which obviously the solid version makes more sense. Yeah. But there's still like different helpers there and things like that. So I'm like always thinking, like, do I need a use effect here?
Right.
Yeah. They're using it. Why do we need it though? Yeah.
I mean, it's a matter of trial and error sometimes.
Yes,
for me at least.
Yeah. I know. I actually pinged Rich. I'm like, hey, by the way, if you want to lend a hand on these, because he was asking he's like, dude, because he's in the chat room, and he was just like, hey, do you have the Svelte bindings for these? I was like, I have them, but let me tell you, there's a lot of red squigglies in these files. So yeah, if you'd like to help.
All right. Cool. All right. So that's effect. What do you think about the other stuff in Svelte 5, like snippets and?
Oh yeah.
Do you use those a lot?
Yeah, I found myself using snippets a lot. It is funny because we built the syntax site in SvelteKit, and Wes, my co-host, Wes Boss, he's very deep into React still, and he really appreciates Svelte. So when he started working on our site, he's like, wow, this is so great for these following reasons. My biggest gripe is that if I am doing like looping over a list and I just want a little mini component of list items, I have to make a whole file, and that really bugs me. And so he hasn't gotten to try out Svelte 5 yet, but that is like the use case for me, especially like little things like that. Now, sometimes my brain is still defaulting to just create a file because I'm so used to single file components. But yeah, I've been loving snippets a lot. The only thing I don't like about them is having to always do in TypeScript, like the snippet children prop stuff.
Right.
Like I would just love it to just not exist for some reason. Yeah, just be automatic.
I mean, the children prop should be, it's what's it called? Reserved, I think.
Yes.
So I feel like they should be able to.
Yeah.
Maybe
know,
they do now. I don't know.
I like, because I say that, and then you think about it. It's like, well, that kind of breaks some of the rules of TypeScript, and obviously whatever, they don't want to do that.
Yeah.
So yeah, a lot of times I get these like web dev feelings that are like completely nonsensical in that way, where it's less about is it practical and more just like I just want it that way.
Totally. Like for me as a user that is not really using effects, and like I wasn't really using reactive statements that much either. So for me, going from Svelte 4 to Svelte 5 is not as big of an improvement probably as it is for some people that are doing like super interactive stuff. You met Brady yesterday as well. And he's doing like super interactive things with 3D models and stuff like that, way above my pay grade. But, but then I can see that like, you probably want a better way of doing state.
Even like I was alluding to, like the state in our syntax site for the audio player is surprisingly super complex, and you're having to keep things in sync with like a web component. But we also, you kind of want to have that information available outside of the component anywhere. There's a lot to it for some reason, and that state just ballooned so fast.
Right.
And it's going to like greatly be simplified, even by moving into a class, which is something that I did not expect to be doing. Because even like up until like a couple months ago, I was putting all of my Svelte 5 state into functions, creating with a function. And since I've opened my mind up to even attempting to use classes for this stuff, and like, I can use a class. I'm only using classes now.
Right.
Yeah, it's crazy. And we had, since we're moving the syntax site over and I'm trying to, update the team on it, we wanted to have like a really strong style guide for the code style, because we didn't have that before. I'm used to always working on projects just by myself. So now I'm with the team. It's like, all right, we need a strong style guide for this. And I proposed a bunch of stuff, and I'm like, classes are functions for state. And everybody was like, functions. And I was like, all right, but let me show you the class version and the function version, and then let's use the classes way easier. Yeah. I think it's just the getters and setters stuff. It all makes sense, but they're just obnoxious.
No, totally. Like, it's really before Svelte 5, I didn't really use a lot of classes in JavaScript in general.
None,
Since I did some React stuff before moving over to Svelte, and I came in just as hooks were released. So I never really used classes in React either. So for me, it's a whole new world kind of. But it's fun. It's like new stuff to learn. Just in general, very nice. Nice developer experience.
And it's oddly enough opened me up to using classes in other ways that I had not done before. And I'm like, I went from being like only functional everything to being like, no, actually classes are kind of all right. Like,
as long as you don't do it like in a really kind of wild way where you like inherit from like very deeply, and then you have no idea where some method that is on the class is coming from. You're like, what is going on? But just keep them simple.
And with UI code, you hardly ever have to get into it. Totally.
I tend to use nowadays classes for so I usually build like services for fetching data and stuff from a database, and in the backend in the load functions and stuff, and that's pretty nice.
I did it for auth for the same type of thing. I like it.
So this local first thing that you've been working on, I feel like you've been diving into the local first world lately?
For like maybe half a year ish. I forget where or why it first came onto my radar. Man, I really wish I could remember, but I was
probably DAX.
Not even DAX.
No?
Yeah, I was shocked when I found out DAX was into it, because he and I were both using Replicache.
Mm-hmm.
So I'd already shipped something with Replicache when I found out DAX was using it too. Mm-hmm. And I forget what I did. I saw something, and it made so much sense to me, because I was very deep into SSR specifically for a lot of things, and with local first, you're almost doing entirely client-side rendering for everything. And you think, oh no, wait, we're past client-side rendering. Well, actually, there's a lot of really great benefits to the client-side rendering with local first stuff, and everything happening on the client means that you don't have to worry about optimistic UI. You don't have to worry about any kind of latency whatsoever. You don't have to worry about poor network conditions. And a lot of the apps I was building, I was using in poor network conditions. And so I made a dance app for myself, and I swiped away the dance moves that I'd used in competition, because you're not supposed to repeat them. Yep. And so that notoriously bad Wi-Fi, and I was using it at my practice space, and I was like, okay, this is terrible experience because of the latency. So then I made it optimistic UI, and I'm like, okay, yeah. But then if they failed, right, now you have the failed state. It feels good,
right? But then it feels worse when it fails.
So that's what's been amazing about the local data stuff, is that you're largely saving to a database that's in the client, whether that is InstantDB or even something crazier. And the moment that you tap that thing, it saves to the database. Yeah. And in the background, for people who don't know, typically what that's doing, doesn't have to, but let's say you wanted to sync to a third-party server. You click it does the thing, and in the background, there's a process that says, oh, change happened. Let's sync with that server. And with something like Replicache, it's sending patch messages. So not like just an object of the data, but it's sending a patch message of only the information that the server needs to have. The only problem with Replicache is that when you write your push and pull server, it's way harder, because now you're not getting an object with the data that you need to update. You're getting this patch message that has what version the data is in, what specifically has changed, and you have to manage that all yourself. You have to write
a diffing engine kind of.
Yeah, and you have to do so much of that stuff manually that it was just oh, this is really worth it, but it's a giant pain. I wrote. Yeah. I did this in my Svelte Summit talk. I showed the push or pull server, I forget which, the amount of step takes when data comes into the server. And it's a 15-step process of checking the version and updating the version, looking at the server version or the row version. And it's oh my gosh.
It's a lot of steps.
Yeah, it's a lot of steps. So I have an app that I have using Replicache, and it's nice, but there's a ton of different local first platforms, and it wasn't until recently that people code on how to make this easier. And there's a few people that have, InstantDB is a product that's available right now, but it's closed source, and it's like a Firebase. It's like they remade Firebase to be local first. Right. And it is very good, but it felt a little immature. And when I built an app in it, I had a really good time. It worked really easily. Came out of the box with auth. Everything saved locally, synced in the back, and it was just effortless. But then when I got into data permissions and stuff like that, you find the edges of this thing. And it is really good, but there are edges. And then the Replicache folks have been working on Zero, which I'm not going to share any of the technical backend, because I don't know if this is going to be released, or Zero will be released by then. It should be. And in that case, you can check out Zero Sync to see how they do this stuff, because there's some really novel approaches to it. But speaking on just the API of using it, you are simply just calling an update function. It's almost RPC, where you're calling a save function from your front end, but it is actually saving it to the client. And then in the background, the sync happens, but they've done it in a way where all you have to supply Zero is Postgres address.
Oh, wow.
And that's it. I mean, you have to take care of migrations and stuff on your database. So I use Drizzle to do that. And so it's a little bit of a bummer, because I'm maintaining two schemas of the same data, basically, the database schema and the client-side schema. Nate from Tamagui actually wrote a translator to translate from Drizzle to Zero, and it's not done yet, but I'll use that all day. Just to be able
writing
to,
one thing instead of two.
Yeah, and it's let me tell you, this to me is going to be I think really groundbreaking for a lot of people because people can get a Postgres URL, they can migrate a database, and then you don't have to worry about a single server side anything, and it is unbelievable how fast and how good it is. I built like a survey app in no time, and because it's all WebSocket based too, it was very like Meteor-like, which people who've been following me know that I long for the days of Meteor. So I have the browsers open in different computers, and I'm typing in one and it's showing up in the other instantly. But not only that, I'm hitting refresh and it's persisted to the synced database, and it works offline automatically, and it's just like, holy cow, this is everything I wanted to do. This is the platform of my dreams here. So I'm actually working on I mentioned in my Svelte Summit talk, and it is kind of like a light project of mine, but I'm working on I want it to be kind of like Meteor. And so out of the box, it has auth, and I already have this in. So I have like demos that I'm building with it now. So out of the box, you basically just give it a Postgres URL, and you have auth, you have local first data syncing, and a lot of that's being done through Zero. But I also, since I'm working on the Svelte bindings for Zero, you're basically just saying, here's a new state query or whatever. You pass it in the query language that you're, to find your data, and then you have like a reactive data that is always in sync with your database and sync with your client-side database. Don't even have to think about it. It's crazy fast. And so I've been working really hard on that. And I'm even including like Meteor had templates for things like login templates, not just like a file, but like a drop-in component that you could have for login. So it's like, all right, I'm going to include login templates. I'm going to include email. So that way you just don't even have to think about email, like transactional email. And it's just a for fun project.
If that sounds interesting to anybody and you want to work on something like that, I'm always happy to have anybody jump in and ask questions or whatever. It's, again, like I said, it's a casual project, but it's what I want. And I've actually built like 5 or 6 sites with it already.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, well, it's so funny because I've been just doing a lot of weird side projects, either for my wife or for myself. And it's really nice to be able to NPX drop in and start with auth in a database and all this stuff and a template and even the CSS. One of the things I didn't even mention is that it has a whole CSS-based grid system out of the box that I wrote, and a base styling library that you can use. just like it's basically just like a fancy reset. But yeah.
No, but that sounds nice for like, especially for like those small utility projects that you kind of always.
It has a fluid typography kit even. Yeah.
There you go.
Yeah.
There you go.
Oh, yeah.
So how I do have some questions about like the local first and how that marries with SvelteKit, because my first thought is that it's hard. Can you even do it?
Oh, yeah.
Or is it like, do you use server endpoints instead of form actions, or like?
Oh, yeah. You don't use form actions, and you largely don't even use endpoints. Now, that's with Zero. When I was using Replicache, I had API endpoints there's 3 of them only. One is for push messages. So like sometimes it's like on a polling where every, 3 seconds, the server will just send a message to the client. Other times it is, you make a change and in the background is pushing, and then you're doing that like patch message work. And then another is like a server send events. So that way you can keep things in sync when anything changes. So that's pretty much it. And that's only if you're doing it that way. And if you're doing it with something like Zero, I don't have like any server-side code. It's crazy. But also I've done a lot of local first apps that are actually truly local first and not using a sync server at all. And I'm storing all of the data in InstantDB, and they don't need to have a sync. I mean, that's kind of uncommon, but like I just built like little export functions if I wanted to take my data elsewhere. Export as JSON, import as JSON. And,
as long as it works.
Yeah, not something I would give to users, but there's a lot there you can do anyways. But yeah, so for the most part, you'd use API endpoints, and you don't get as much into form actions. And since everything is like, it is funny. It's I'm so firmly into the web standards approach. I love all my web stuff. I love my forms, all this stuff. And then now I'm in a world where I'm doing so much JavaScript and everything is JavaScript based.
Yeah.
But at the same time, it's all smaller and faster. And like, it's like such a weird, it's like counterintuitive to the way that my brain has been thinking about.
Yeah. I totally love form actions.
Oh yeah.
It's like my favorite thing about SvelteKit, almost.
Same, yeah.
Load and just like, that's probably also the reason why I don't have to use effects and stuff, right?
Yeah,
because
yeah.
just offload that stuff to the backend. No need to worry about it.
I know. There's so many times where like you even try to, and this is with Svelte overall in general. There's so many times where you like try to do something a more complex way, and you're like, why am I just not doing like the Svelte way or whatever? Like, oh, I'm making this too difficult. The Svelte makes this way easier than it needs to be. Yeah.
Yeah. So, I guess so. For any other thoughts about Svelte 5 that you haven't changed? Like,
I'm interested to see the new stuff coming out. I can't wait to see how it evolves because, it's a big jump forward in a big direction. Not like a direction change, but definitely a big shift. And I think the most interesting things are yet to come, right? Because like whenever you the first version of React that had hooks, you were like, okay, I get it.
What can we do with this?
Right. And then as time's gone on, we've gotten more and more there. And I think this is going to be the same way. I can't wait to see what happens next in general.
Yeah.
So
I saw recently, I think error boundaries.
Yeah. I work for Sentry, and they were super stoked about that.
I can imagine.
Yeah, I sent them the message when we first was mentioned, and they were like, "Yes, not only
Finally.
that, but this is the API of my dreams." And you're like, "Yes, okay, cool. I'm glad y'all error folk people are happy." Yeah,
it's such a niche thing to be interested in.
Oh yeah,
just specifically errors.
Like, exactly.
Sure.
I love to see the errors. I love to see the stack trace. Okay, not me, but
I guess for Sentry, it's like the more errors, the better.
Totally.
No, I'm kidding. Obviously, everyone wants to not build applications that break, but
sure. I think that's why Sentry probably loves developers that use AI for everything.
Have you tried using AI with Svelte?
I primarily use Cursor as my editor right now, and I do like that I can reference the Svelte 5 docs in it, which is one of the defining features, because without that, it has no clue about Svelte 5 stuff. And even then, it's tough. 4. I found that to be one of the harder parts. Not that it can get me there or whatever, and I mostly don't even need it for the Svelte stuff, because you end up doing so little in Svelte overall. But just in general, the autocomplete can be pretty good to just save you some time here and there. And as long as it gets the template code correct, I'll do the rest myself.
Yeah.
But I do like being able to reference the Svelte 5 docs. And I hope more of the models either gain better features there or make it easier to work with Svelte 5.
Totally. Yeah, I've been trying to get it to I have that issue where, so I'm using mostly Claude Sonnet 3.5, and I'm just like on the website, and I'm trying create an endpoint for I don't know, for a /new posts or whatever, and it's like here's a page.svelte, and it's just like, and it's almost like importing React components and stuff. And I'm like, no.
I have it oftentimes give me writables, and I'm just like, not a writable, no. Moved on.
Yeah, I had to really nail down, like a custom prompt thing to make sure never reply with React code or Vue code.
Oh yeah, the Cursor custom prompt things, or the Cursor file, whatever that is, Cursor rules file. Really handy for stuff like that.
Right,
always use classes for state. Use runes. Use them like this. Always do TypeScript. Always do snake case. Whatever, and you just give it a big old list of things.
I'll have to give it a try. I've been using mostly Zed.
Okay,
and it's been okay, but
Zed
Cursor sounds.
Yeah, it's good. It is VS Code basically, but I really liked Zed for a lot of reasons. But there's one. This is the dumbest thing. There's one piece of functionality in Zed that they do not have, and I opened an issue for it a while ago, and I think it's so niche that nobody really cares. But when you do I don't know, so whatever you do when you split a window, mine is Hyper-S. I don't know what it typically is.
Right.
But when you split a window, it opens the same file in two window panes, and I know people do that, but I almost always want to split a window and have two different files open.
Yep.
So I'm working here, I do HyperS, and I want the file I'm working in to go over here, and then a different file to open, or whatever, the last one I had opened. And so VS Code can do that with I forget what the thing is, it's something in move file.
Right.
And I have such muscle memory to do HyperS all the time when I'm working, and the Z does not have that yet, and I cannot live without it.
It is a bit weird to open the same file.
I know.
Why would you want... I don't know.
And if you have that, I get why you might have that for long files or whatever.
Sure.
But if you have that, why not also have the other one? Like truly just, and I don't even want to split the file. I want to split the editor, and I want the file to go in the split spot. Yeah.
That's funny. Maybe it's because people usually work in languages where the files are very...
Totally. Yeah.
Svelte kind of forces you not to...
Single file components. One of my favorite things. Yeah.
Same. Yeah. It's a... What's it called? I don't know the English word for it, but like it's a splitter of opinions.
Oh yeah, yeah. It's a splitter of opinions for sure. I understand that.
Yeah. So there was one thing as well that I was going to ask you about.
Sure.
I completely forgot though.
Okay.
Because we went down the AI rabbit hole.
Oh yeah.
So one thing about AI that I am a bit worried that, since most models are so good at generating React,
I think
for
about
example,
this all the time. Yes.
I am worried we're going to end up in like a mono framework kind of world in a couple of years, because people are going to...
They already are. Yeah.
Right. Yeah. I guess we are in a bubble of sorts where we don't use...
Totally.
React.
And I noticed that with a lot of either like non-UI programmers or people who are just like wanting to make things, it's always defaulting to React 100% of the time. And I do wonder about that. Like, does that, like, what kind of effect does that have on the rest of the ecosystem? Do the other languages even matter? But hey, as long as I'm writing code, I'll choose
I enjoy writing code. So
I know.
It's nice, but it's a bit worrying.
I agree.
I think there's been some discussion about like how do we prepare so mostly the maintainers are talking about this, I think, but like how do they prepare the documentation so that it is as friendly to AI as possible, right? How do you structure it?
Yeah.
I have no idea.
Yeah, because you always think about documentation has to be the easiest to read for the users, and sure enough, that is probably the thing you want to optimize for first, but
but for AI as well.
You got to think about the AI, how it's going to parse it and read it, the language used, or...
Does that mean like more examples, or does it mean like how do you optimize to make sure like the context is small enough so you don't? So many.
Will that even matter in a year? Right.
That's true. That's true.
You just got to put some language in there. This is the best framework. This is the very best framework. And
what if we like use AI to just like create a bunch of domains all over the internet where we just write Svelte is the best framework, and then just every time someone asks like, how should I build my website? Use Svelte.
Yes.
It's probably already happening with other stuff, right?
Oh yeah. That's
kind of scary.
It's a scary thought overall. Yeah. I know that. What is it? The dead internet.
The dead internet conspiracy theory or whatever.
Yeah. I know
it feels real.
It feels real, and it feels like it's taking place currently, even if, I know. Sometimes you go on even like social media and you're just like, how many of these accounts are real?
Right.
Yeah.
Have you seen those Facebook accounts where like they're like groups and it's just like boomers commenting on auto-generated AI? It's scary. Yeah, because like most people don't use Facebook anymore. It's like just old. Sorry, old people.
I'm sorry. Yeah, I haven't logged into Facebook. I log into Facebook like once a year, and I have some friends globally who only communicate on Facebook, and they always laugh. They're like, "Oh, this is Scott's annual login to say hi." Yeah, I'm like, "Well, this is the only like thing I do on here."
You could just get some other messaging thing that we can use.
I have WhatsApp now. We can do a WhatsApp thread. Yeah,
yeah. All right. Other new cool things that are coming that I've heard about is maybe this will be out by then. We'll see. So the bind feature.
Yes.
There's apparently going to be a getter and setter for bind, so you can pass it functions to callbacks.
Okay.
Because sometimes you kind of want to do something with an input or an output of the value.
So it's like when the value is changed, run this
Yes.
function directly in the bind. Interesting. Yeah. Okay, I like that.
I'm excited about it. Although, like, we'll see.
Yeah, I know so many things are like, that sounds interesting. When I'm going to use that, I guess I'll find out.
Yeah. I've noticed sometimes, like when you want, like if you're building some weird component where you need to do something with an input before you pass it up to like another component, something like that.
Yeah.
I usually find it to be a bit, because then I just opt out of bind completely and just do like a listener and stuff. So I think this will help a bit.
That would, and I could see how that would be helpful. Specifically, you're listening for changes. It is funny, like when I first read derived by, I was like, I'm never going to need this. I think derived is fine. And then I use derived by all the time. It's okay.
It's probably the one I use.
It's probably the one I use the most. Yeah, I know. I know. It's like so funny. I'm like, do I need just a derived here? No, I think I need a derived by. Yeah.
All right. So for you then, like what's next after local first? What's the next interesting thing that you're gonna? Maybe you don't know yet.
Yeah, I don't know. For me, I'm so deep into that, and I feel so like it is funny. Like I still feel conflicted about it because I do like the web standard stuff so much. But like when I use my local first apps that I've made, they feel so much better. I am working on. We're going to be rewriting the syntax site, even though we just rewrote it and we just built it from scratch. It was like a full build. Like I mentioned, we want to be not just a podcast.
Yes.
And the website right now is very much like, this is the website for a podcast. And
right. There's the audio player, there's the transcript. And
you wouldn't even know we had YouTube, even though like primarily we're releasing a ton of stuff there. There's like a section for videos. Yeah. So we, for the first time, we hired a designer. It's the same person that designed the Level Up tutorial site, Travis Nielsen. He's a good friend of mine.
Oh, yeah. I think I watched this. I think we actually talked about this in a couple of the first episode you were
probably
on.
We were talking about redesigning the Level Up site.
Because he used to run like a YouTube channel.
Dev Tips TV. Yes. He's so great. So, for the first time we're working on that, and we're still like major in the process of it. But yeah, I think it's going to be really cool, and it's going to give us an opportunity to like re-architect while keeping the same code base. And that's going to be a fun challenge. But now that we're in Svelte 5, it feels like, all right, we have the base. Obviously, we don't need to start over from scratch. And we can approach this and knock this thing out in an interesting way. So that's going to be a big project. And should be a lot of fun. Because CJ Reynolds on Syntax is also very talented Svelte dev.
Right.
He does a lot of Svelte. In fact, he actually just released a video at the time of recording this today on building some app in Svelte on our YouTube channel. So it'll be fun to work on it with those guys. Because it's like, last time what I did is I built the whole site. I even designed it, the whole syntax site.
Right.
And then Wes came in and then the last couple of weeks and then just like threw a huge coat of paint on the whole thing and made it look amazing. And he was just like, "Oh, let me just tweak this all." And that's the way Wes.
He really has a very specific design.
Oh yeah,
style.
And it's so funny. My first pass, I was like, "I'm so proud of this design. I did such good work on this design." And then Wes like rips it all out and does his coat of paint on it. And I'm just like, oh yeah, mine sucked compared to this. Like I guess, like I my design is so lifeless. It is very like systemized. Here's a design system, and everything fits into that system, and you do not stray from that system. And meanwhile, Wes is the opposite. He's just like tossing things here and there. It's like whatever looks good to him. And it's funny when we interviewed Brad Frost on Syntax, we were talking about design systems, and I was like, I really like a strong system. And Wes is like, you know what? The thing I don't like about systems is that when I need a gradient, I can't just write that gradient. What am I supposed to do? And like almost on cue, like Brad and I were both like, you add it to the system. You don't just add it to the component, you add it to the system.
Yeah. No, I'm the same. Like I prefer to have it like in the Tailwind config if I'm using Tailwind, and then works very well for me.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, know where your stuff's at.
Yeah. All right. Unless you have anything else that you want to chat about, then
No. Expect to actually, you know what? I did release a Svelte 5 beginner's course on our YouTube. It's like 2.5 hours long. And it is truly for either people coming from other frameworks. I do a lot of, in React, you do it like this type of comments.
Nice.
Yeah. Because I do recognize that a lot of people will try Svelte 5 for the first time coming from React. And it is less for the person who is even tried Svelte 5, but the people who want to like really get a good foundational set of skills on it, it covers all the basic stuff in 2 hours, and we'll be doing a lot more. So if you like Svelte tutorial content, we'll be doing a lot of that. We'll be doing examples. I'm going to be doing a full local first series with Zero and Svelte Kit when Zero is finally released in past alpha, because I know they're going to release an alpha first. So,
right.
Yeah. So there's good. That to look forward to. Yeah.
Cool. There's one more question that I wanted to ask you that I just got reminded about. So when you build your, I guess, non-local first application, like what's your stack like? Do you use serverless or like do you self-host? I feel like I've seen you post about Coolify.
Yeah,
because I am a big Coolify fan. So
I love Coolify. Yeah. I host a lot. Man, I do so many little sites or demos or side projects. I host a lot of stuff on my Coolify, which is in an ARM server on Hetzner. And I feel like anytime I just want to throw something, I just throw it on there because it's easy. But then a lot of the times I'm hosting on like my personal site and several other projects, hosted on Cloudflare Pages. That's what I'll reach for first. Vercel has long sponsored the hosting of the Syntax site. So our Syntax site is hosted on Vercel. But for me personally, I'm going to either go Cloudflare Pages if I want a serverless, or I do a Coolify for like a node site. That's pretty much my go-to. Stack-wise, I tend to...
Hopefully Svelte.
Yeah, absolutely. Svelte for everything. I don't even consider using anything else, which is, at first, I think it's like since Svelte 3, it's like, I don't want to use anything else.
No, I totally get it.
Yeah, it's just what I like. And I either go back and forth because I have a lot of experience with both Prisma and Drizzle. I'll use Prisma or Drizzle. Syntax site is Prisma. A lot of my other projects are Drizzle. So I'll usually pick one of those two. And then Postgres usually for database now. I was like a long MongoDB user. So I have to get used to not writing MongoDB. But it's been a little while since I have. So yeah, I'm pretty much reaching for Postgres right now if I need a database. The Syntax site is on planet scale, which has been great. There's a lot of cool features with branching and versioning. And when you change your schema, you have to like merge the new schema. And I like all that stuff.
That sounds like very nice featers to have.
Very nice features to have. But so many of the other ones I think are, not that they're too hyped up or something like that. I'll just more or less just spin up a normal ass Postgres server. Yeah.
It's usually enough, right?
Yeah.
All right. Thanks for doing the interview with me, Scott.
Absolutely.
And again, it was very nice to meet you in person.
Yes. Yeah. For the first time.
For the first time, yes.
Just today, just now, yeah.
We did not meet yesterday.
No.
All right. And with that said, that's it for us. Thanks for listening, and you will hear from us next week.
Later.
Bye. Hey, it's Kev here. If you like the show, please drop a review on your favorite podcast player. It would help out a lot. Thanks.